This is Jonathan Lane from Fan Film Factor, and I am once again here with the crazy cast and crew of Nature's Hunger, a Star Trek fan series that has been running for, over a decade now. I mean, probably a decade and a half at least. And they have produced some of the wildest and wackiest Star Trek fan films you are ever likely to see because they include things like Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz. They include characters from the Planet of the Apes. They include sorcerers and witches. And most recently, they included World War II fighter pilots and bomber pilots and a bomber girl. In fact, that's what their most recent fan film is called, Bomber Girl. And today I have with me to my immediate, well, I guess for you it's the right, Jose Cepeda, who is the showrunner for the series, and then Leslie Sawyer, who stars as Bomber Girl and a whole bunch of other characters. We're going to talk to her about that. Larry Fleming, he of the Disappearing and Reappearing Whiskers. And he's been in a number of different fan films over the years, not just stuff for Nature's Hunger. We also have Jesse Jeffries. Is that that's correct?
Yeah.
And he made the props. And since these are all prop planes, obviously it needed the props. Get it? Uh, Anyway, I'm the only person laughing at that joke. And then finally, we have David McHenry, who is the person who scored this very, very ambitious fan film. And when I say ambitious, I mean it was 2 hours long. Now, obviously, the fan film guidelines, the Star Trek fan film guidelines say you're not supposed to be longer than 15 minutes. They're, or half an hour at most if you've got two parts. So 2 hours is definitely over that. But I think they can be forgiven because the fact is that there's probably less than a half an hour of Star Trek footage, probably more like about maybe 10 or 15 minutes of it. And the rest all takes place on Earth during World War II. Except it's a World War II where apparently, witches exist. We'll chat about that in just a second. But anyway, I have to say, and just let's put it out there. Nature's Hunger is not for everybody. It is very campy. It is very, I won't say amateurish because that's not the right word, because the amount of work that goes into this is not amateurish. But at the same point in time, when you watch it, you don't think this is a slick, polished, Rise of the Resistance, Force Awakens kind of green screen thing. You're like, okay, well, they threw this here, they threw this there. But if you watch it on a different level, what you see is that there's a level of ambitiousness. It's a technical ambitiousness. It's obvious that Jose wants to do a lot with a little and succeeds in an amazing way. And you look at this. I want to show you guys a short segment right now from the film, and then we'll discuss this later. But take a look.
I need to find a quick way home. No immediate troop transports are available. One would think that an urgent Red Cross message would get the job done. But that's not the case. They told me to take a number and get in line. That there's others ahead of me, and I must wait my turn. This is so frustrating. Nothing is going my way. I need to write my own ticket home.
I booked a fast boat to Casablanca. Time was of the essence. There was no time to waste. I was racing against the clock. I could not afford any delays to my attempts to get home. And yet, the closer I got, the greater my urgency grew. War was all around me, and my biggest enemy was time itself. I was battling against my worsening fears. I wanted to be victorious over my despair and hopelessness, and rise a hero of my own adventure.
When I saw this segment, which happens towards the beginning of the film, I I realized what went into it because all they really have to film against is a green screen. And they did so much with it that, you know, it's not just a person sitting against a background like I am right now. I mean, there's walking, there's movement of the backgrounds as things are happening. There's zooming, there's panning. All of this stuff is just really it's ambitious and it's pulled off. Jose does it. So I want to ask Jose first, when when you were writing this, because you wrote this, when you were writing this, were you thinking I'm going to put this much effort into it? Because I'm guessing this probably took you how long to do?
Almost 2 years.
2 years. Were you thinking I'm about to embark on a 2 year saga of my life?
Yeah, it was intended to be a 5-minute film, but I think it was like a calling because the more when you get into the script, you realize there's so much. I was vision. There was more story that had to be told. Does that make sense? And I was not willing to just leave it on the table. I said, this has to be told, and it just kept coming and coming, and I was dreaming this stuff. And before you know what, it turns out to be over 2 hours, but it was never intended to, it was originally a 5-minute plot. But
So and by the way, in Nature's Hunger, they have snippets that happen in their holodeck. Even though it's a 23rd century ship,
yep,
it's a
yep.
recreation deck or whatever. So there's little snippets. So I'm guessing initially you were just thinking it was going to be like a 5-minute cutaway in the holodeck or something like that.
Yeah, it was part of the Fighting Chance series, but we took that and it took on a life of its own. As I got into it, and I was thinking of my military experience. Oh, wait. I spent so much time in mess halls. I said, I got to have a mess hall scene in here, and I got to have real food. And then it got in more and more and more. You see all those additional scenes and conflict, the office scenes and stuff like that. I said, I've been there, done that, got the T-shirt. I got to, it was like second. I got to include a scene like that, confrontation,
Now, which branch of the military did you serve in, Jose?
In the Army.
You were in the Army, okay.
Yeah.
Of course, back during World War II, it was the Army Air Force. The
Yeah,
Air Force didn't exist yet as a branch of the U.S. military. And what was your rank when you finally were discharged?
Oh, yeah, full bird colonel.
You were what?
A full bird colonel.
A full bird colonel.
Yes.
Is that the same thing as a colonel?
Yes. But then you got lieutenant colonel and colonel. So.
Okay, but
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, we've got a colonel here.
Yes.
Sir. I shouldn't be doing that. I was never in the military, but that's impressive. I'm not worthy.
It was challenging. But I learned a lot. I learned a lot about the world, and I learned about the international community, and I learned a lot about corporate America as it pertains to the military. So yeah, it's a lot of responsibility, but you learn a lot. You see things from so many different angles. And
Wow.
yeah. Yeah.
Well, first of all, thank you for your service, as we all
Yep.
say. Did you serve in any combat situations at all during your time?
Humanitarian. Yeah.
Humanitarian.
Humanitarian, and even what do you call it? Bill on San Diego, building that the Great Wall. I call it the Great Wall of China, but I was involved in that one too.
We have
Border.
the Great Wall of China in San Diego.
Oh yes, I didn't realize. I had look at it this way. I wouldn't have been successful. I didn't have a lot of great teachers. Where you serve around the world, and they kind of teach you the ropes. So you don't slip and fall, and and end up in situations that you don't wish to be in. But yeah,
where have you served, by the way?
stuff. Yeah.
Where have you served during your time?
I have served in Germany, Italy, Korea, Peru. Yeah, I was a task force commander in Peru, leading a humanitarian mission. to help the people of Peru, which I thought was incredible.
Oh, that's awesome.
Joint task force, which is truly impressive. To be able to work with such people.
I had
Yep.
no idea this was coming at the beginning of the interview. This is why I do these interviews, folks, because I
Yeah.
learn something new about every fan filmmaker.
Yeah.
Um, so what what inspired you to even create a plot line, even if it started as 5 minutes long that became 2 hours, based on somebody in World War II? I mean, what did that have to do with Star Trek? Or how did that, it obviously didn't, but you linked it eventually.
What it has to do is a journey of discovery, a journey of self-discovery. The Janet Pepperstone, who is Janet Pepperstone, and what is she willing to do to get to the end zone, so to speak? She finds out who she really is. A leopard cannot change her spots, and she finds that out, because she is the rogue witch, so to speak. Can't use her magical powers, but she ends up using them. So she learns a lot about herself and how she fits in as her being thrusted into World War II and the people that she impacts. That's what we thought should be the success of the story. Interweave it there, of course, then throw in Star Trek on top of that. There you go, like a sandwich. How's that?
Like a sound. But what led you specifically to World War II and the European theater? Whereas something else, it could have been anything, could be the Revolutionary War for all
you led into what I wanted to talk about, and let me see if I got. Oh, okay, probably closer to my nose. Okay,
yeah, but he's also a little bit slanted, so turn him so we can see him
right
straight.
there. Okay,
okay, yes.
That's a picture of him in the film. Okay,
and who is that?
Yeah, when I was in first lieutenant in Boulder, Colorado, General Christiansen decided that he wanted to name the Boulder Army Reserve Center give it a name. So it is done by the city and it's done by the military. They all get together as a group. They all come up with a whole bunch of favorite sons and names and stuff. But they decided that Donald D. Puckett, should be the man. He was a Medal of Honor winner in the Pulaski raids. There were 6 Medal of Honor winners during those air wars, and over Romania. And I think he's one of the last ones to get the medal. And he tried to save. In a short story, you can read the citation online, but he decided that he needed to save his crew. His plane was being shot down. Told everybody to bail out. And he did his best, and they bailed out, all the good stuff. But so he got a medal there for doing his part. He is the captain that went down with his ship, so to speak. But where my part came in, and I spent like a year having to research, because you cannot name a reserve center without having to do in-depth investigation and research. You have to prove that he lived, that he died, he earned a medal, and I had to go all the way to the Air Force Academy to research, pull up the old World War II archives. So and it's just the incredible story that, because I did the research and say, okay, yeah, it's validated, it's good. Then now we want you to be the action officer, and now we want you to plan the ceremony for this guy. I said, you want me to plan the ceremony, sir? He said, yes. I said, well, okay. And then my eyes lit up, being a first lieutenant wanting to make captain. I said, well, can we do a Hollywood production, sir? He said, well, what do you have in mind, CEPEDA? I said, big time. I mean, this is a Medal of the Honor winner. We need to go big time with this. I mean, big scissors at the ribbon cutting ceremony. You invite, the mayor, all the key dignitaries there. We think the theme is Army Air Force. So I got hold in Buckley Air Force Base, and we got the old World War II drill team to come on, and they were actually going to perform the drill ceremony. Then I made sure I contacted Fort Carson, brought in flags, brought in the cannons, honor guard, and they said, wow. And then I said, well, you know what would be good is we need to do it like George Patton, and then bring in a giant garrison flag, where Patton in the movie where he comes on and you see that big giant flag, and we decided to do the ceremony. So we got the flag from Fort Carson, draped it over, did the ceremony in front, and then I said, sir, it needs a cherry on top. He said, what do you suggest, Lieutenant? I said, let's do an Air Force flyover. And if you're familiar with the city of Boulder or any city, you just don't say, hey, I want to do an Air Force flyover. All the regulations, red tape, you're going to fly. But, I told them, hey, this is for a Medal of Honor winner, and they, doors opened up when you said Medal of Honor winner. And when the ceremony came out, because we weren't too sure they were going to really have a flyover, oh, yeah, you can't, blah, 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 blah. But in the end, when we had the ceremony, lo and behold, we had a flyover, and that's just fantastic. You got to give the guy, Medal of Honor winner, first class treatment,
Okay, so that pretty much inspired your mind to
Much.
create Bomber
Yeah,
Girl.
that's part of it. That's part of it. Now,
Okay.
couple this, when I was a kid growing up, I saw this film on TV about the Lady Be Good, the ghost bomber. And it was just so mysterious to me, So I learned everything I could about that, and I said, whoa. I mean, that is, so you put that Bomber Girl, and you put it, it's okay. There's some supernatural stuff to this, sprinkling and dust. And then lo and behold, you put the two together, and you have Bomber Girl, because we had changed the ending several times because say, no, it's not worthy. It has to be, it has to get you into the end zone and over the top, So yeah, we had like a typical ordinary ending, and this and no. But that's how we came up with that ending, because the Lady Be Good,
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's move on to Leslie because, Leslie, you were the glue that had to hold this whole thing together because you were Bomber Girl, and you had a helical. But first of all, how long was the script? I mean, how many pages was it when you received it?
Oh, well, like what Jose said, this was actually originally supposed to be like about 5 minutes. So it did kind of start out that way. So it was not big at all. It was small. And I thought, oh, we're done. We filmed over a weekend the script. And then Jose's like, no, there's more to this. There's more meat to this. I want to add more scenes. So
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, And then then another time we got together, and then we filmed more, and then I think we need to flush this out. We need to do this. We need to expand on this part of it, and it really did. Just as I'm thinking we're wrapping this up, that's gonna be over. Jose comes out with a whole more block, another script to add to it. I'm just like, okay, it's like, all right. And then seriously, I just kept on thinking, all right, well, we're getting close to the end, No, there's more. He just kept on coming out, rolling out those scripts. And I'm like, oh, okay, it's amazing to me that the way we filmed it, the way we did it, like Jose said, it took about almost 2 years to make this movie. Uh, I don't, there's no way an actor has the vision that the director has. So for me, I'm just doing what I need to do. But it was because, when you make a movie, things are so chopped up that it's hard for the actor to really have that vision, to really understand even really what's going on. What are we doing? What's going on? So, when I did get to finally see the movie, I'm like, oh wow, that really came together well. Because in my mind, like I said, I don't know what Jose's doing. I mean, I didn't understand really the
I don't
full
know what Jose's doing
thing.
either.
I didn't understand the whole thing and how he was going to really put it all together. But I was really impressed. I'm like, wow. In fact, I actually really did get a little bit teary-eyed. I got a little bit emotional when I saw the final product because I'm like, wow, so this is what Jose was envisioning. This is amazing. I really was very, very pleased and very happy with how the whole thing did come together. But yeah, Jose has an incredible imagination, and he took the ball and ran with this. He really, really did, and it is an amazing thing. So I'm I can't say enough about how what an incredible job I think Jose really did do in coming up with all these ideas and how to just keep on. With Casablanca, they kind of didn't have, they kept changing things, and no, let's do it this way, and they didn't even know they're writing the script as they're filming. And in a way, that's what Bomber Girl was like. Like Jose said, he wanted to change the ending. He had an ending. We're doing all these different endings, and then he's changing things. And oh, I think we should do this, and we need to add this. And it was just so, in my mind, just really kind of crazy. And but boy, really, when in the end, it all worked and it all came together. So it is really pretty amazing.
Now, did he just drop pages of the script on you, like when you showed up to film? It's like, oh, Leslie, can we just grab like these more? Or did he send you beforehand, like, okay, well, I wrote these extra 10 pages here. Can you come prepared to do these
Yeah.
scenes?
No, he really was very good about that. He would write it. He would come up with these ideas and then write it all down and create the script. And then he would send it off to me. There was no surprises like that. I would get there and he'd be like, "Oh, by the way, here's all these lines that you're going to have to do." He would already have it all planned out. That is one thing I will say about Jose, that when he gets everybody together for filming, he's got his whiteboard where he writes down exactly what scenes we're going to be filming. He's got it all planned out, all plotted out. He's very, very organized. We don't waste time. We get there and we start doing what we need to do and get it done. I think he is, when it comes to that. Oh yeah, no, he's we're all very well prepared. We know what we're going to be doing, and he has it all laid out, and we follow exactly what it is he wants to do. So that's it.
Now, how difficult was this for you to do? Obviously, you're doing in pieces and something. Oh, here's more, but you're acting entirely in front of green screens. Leaving Jose to put it all together. Later on. So, what kind of challenges does that create for you as an actress?
Well, obviously, there's no way to really know exactly where to look. Jose was pretty good about telling us, okay, everybody look up over, to the left, up here, then look over here, look down. I mean, he was able to kind of tell us. And obviously in editing, you don't hear him telling us what to be doing,
Right.
but
Yeah.
that's how we're all like in sync and we're all looking up and then we're all looking around like that. And so he's giving us direction. But boy, yeah, we're obviously just looking at a blank wall or a bathroom or it's like so you just have to, but he tells us what's going on. This is what's happening right now. They're coming at you, they're dive bombing you, the bullets are flying there, everything's going, and you're like, ah, all right, you duck cover, all right. So, it was crazy. But hey, that's showbiz. Whenever you're working with a green screen. Luckily, Jose is very, very good about explaining what's going on in the scene and where you are. Like when I was walking through Casablanca, he was telling me how I was going to be walking through that. Um, and then, going into the cafe and that looking around, he's like, okay, now you're outside, you're standing outside the cafe, you're looking at the cafe. I'm like, okay, wow, okay, and I'm like, yeah. So, so at least I kind of had a reference. He was telling me what I was supposed to be looking at, which helps instead of just saying, "Oh, just look around," or like, So no, he would tell me what it is where I was, and what I was supposed to be looking at. So that helps. That helps.
All right. Well, let's move next door to Larry. Unmute yourself, please. And so, Larry, you're sort of sitting in front of yourself. Uh, you're beside yourself. Uh, so, what was this experience like on your end? Because you also had a fairly big part. I mean, was it? I mean, what were you thinking as this thing just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger?
Well, my only problem is, like I said, it took so long to film. I get tired of the same face in the mirror every morning. and yet I had to have a similar face. And I started off with my Tony Stark beard, and that's not military. So eventually I had to cut it off, and we use the excuse that we're going to have a woman on board, and I don't want to, two jinxes, just one would be enough. And this is 1940 stuff, Leslie. It's not today, but I ended up shaving it off for the part. But he cuts this stuff up and hands it to us on a platter, basically. So that's all you have to look at. We don't have to know the big picture. We didn't know the big picture because he didn't know it sometimes until we got to the next set. So it was easy enough for us to do. He takes very good care of his actors. He feeds us very well. We've got a little green room that we can sit in and relax if you're not currently on camera. I got to help work the camera because I get bored sitting too long. So it was interesting for me to keep doing everything that I was doing. And it's faith in him because we've worked with him before enough to know his vision, he's going to make it happen.
Now, we chatted a little bit during the pre-interview about the fact that you guys as actors weren't necessarily satisfied with your performances after, just one or two takes, that you were kind of insisting on doing it until you got it perfect. And Jose was fine, like, oh, well, we can go on. You're like, no, we can get this right. So how did that all turn out when that happened?
Well, I mean, I've played Spock very many times and on different fan films. I can tend to be very droll. And for me to pull emotion out of me is harder to do. And so we had to really work on that. And I'm still not satisfied. You can talk to the best actors in the world, pick your A-listers. They don't watch themselves because they always feel they could have done a better job. So it's a standard feeling for an actor to think they can do a better job. And I remember there was a scene, I was in, what's the plane that landed in the Hudson? Okay.
Oh,
Tom
Sully,
Hanks.
about Sully.
Yeah, Sully. I was in that, and I got to talk to Tom Hanks for a little while, and it was directed by Clint Eastwood. And Tom Hanks went up to him at one point and said, can I get another take? I can do this. And Clint Eastwood turned to him and said, "Were you paying the bills? We've spent enough time on it. You did a good job. I would have told you otherwise. Let's move on." And that's kind of the way Jose works. If he's satisfied, then we're all satisfied.
So you guys weren't pushing him for more takes?
There just isn't time. I'll be honest,
we might push for one or two more, but
nothing,
nothing major.
It's like if we set our line correctly, it's like, okay, we're moving on to the next. It's one and done if you get your line right. That's how it is. See, people don't realize that really when all these fan films were so short on time that we don't have the luxury, because I've been on a lot of sets as well, and they have the time, they have the ability, whatever, to do tons of takes, tons.
Wow.
But with fan films, if you just say your line right, that's it, man. We got to move on. And do you think I would love to have that luxury of, hey, can we do the scene again? I would love to do the scene a bunch of times, because as an actor, the more you say the same line over and over and over again, the more actually you get kind of more loose and comfortable with it, and the more natural it actually kind of starts to come out, as opposed to like, oh, just say your line and now we're moving on to the next thing. So it's really quite a challenge. When I watched Bomber Girl, there were a couple of scenes where I was like, oh, I really, really wish we could have filmed that a few more times, where I really kind of feel like I probably would have been able to say or do that scene a little bit better if we could have done it, more, to do more takes. But it's just, we can't. We really can't. We really are pressed for time. There's just not enough.
I guess because people show up in the morning, and it's not like they're going to be there for the next 2 or 3 weeks, like on a movie set. You're there for 14 days or 21 or 34 or whatever. All those days you have pretty much all of your actors and all of your crew. there. Whereas when you're doing a fan film, like, well, they're here Saturday, maybe they can come on Sunday, but then
Yep.
we have to schedule everything all over again. Um,
Yep.
so that's why when you watch fan films, folks, you do have to be a little bit more patient. They do a lot with a little, as I said, and
Yeah.
Very true.
yeah.
True.
In this case, you did it. You did a heck of a lot. So the next person who did a lot was Jesse, who built the props. Um,
Well,
right?
I didn't build
Oh,
the props. I contributed a few props.
you contributed your props.
Yeah, no, Jose could answer who built the
Yeah, that's
gun.
Jeff McKelvey. Yeah, Jeff McKelvey did the 3D props.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So
And by the way, and where did you get there's a lot of costumes, obviously, a lot of military costumes and such. Where did you get all those?
that's a good one because I when we originally were working with the film, we thought, oh, we have to come up with some World War II costumes, Then we realized, no, wait, no, you do not, because we looked at eBay. Not only are they expensive, but they're worn out and everything. And then we said, wait, we're looking at this wrong. You don't need World War II costumes. What you need is costumes that look World War II. And that changed the whole thing. And let me give you an example. So instead of looking at eBay, we went to Amazon. And Amazon, we said, tactical. If you find some tactical hiking gear in the right military colors, you're set. And it was beautiful, And that's how we did it, So yeah, it's tactical hiking gear from Amazon. And we just put the rank on, all that stuff, put the patches on, and it's good enough for World War II. So yeah, we have to change the mindset and do that.
Yeah, fooled me. You watch a fan film, you give yourself a little bit of
Hiking stuff.
suspension of disbelief. So Jesse, what was this experience like for you working on the film for 2 years or however long?
Well, for mine, it was 2 different sessions that I came out. I drove. I live in Virginia, so I drove down to Jose's house in Georgia, and like everyone else has said, he has it all planned out extremely well. What we're going to do for that day to maximize the use of time. So we got a lot done in a short amount of time, and it was just a very awesome experience. I have a great imagination, so I'm able to work with a green screen, blue screen. Doesn't really bother me. I can imagine, I've got bombers flying around, especially when you have a practical prop that you're working with. The background, that's in your mind. That doesn't really matter. What you're using that practical prop to help push your imagination to that limit. And who we got to make the machine gun. Again, that was a very highly detailed M2 Browning machine gun. On camera, it looks like a real one. And the same thing with the bomber equipment. That was like I've gotten my little screenshot there. It looks like a real piece of military equipment, and that's what I was working with. And everything else in my mind just falls into place. I try to really imagine that I'm there, and I've just always had a pretty good imagination. So just definitely a very enjoyable experience overall.
Do you have any particular memories, incidents, things that were funny or stood out for you during the course of the filming?
It was just especially using the machine gun was a very awesome thing because it was on a swivel, and so you're moving it around and you're just imagining those fighter planes in there and you're shooting them down. Get those road runners off my backs, and especially with the character development, that was whenever I read a script and I'm given that, just using my imagination to flesh that character out. I try to add as much as I can to that character, make them seem more like a real person. Like I put them separate from myself. It's a different person. But I came up with, I rewatched Captain America: The First Avenger, and also some World War II films. I found the bombardier training videos from World War II that actually showed the bombardiers, and did that as sort of prep for the role, just to kind of put myself in the shoes of the bombardier. Okay, I'm going on this bombing mission. I'm training for it. Everything I have to do for that, and so really just establishing the character was a lot of fun for sure.
I loved your accent, by the way. I mean, that really talk about developing your character.
Oh, wow.
That was all you. That was him. It's not like Jose told him, "Hey, this I want you to have this accent." It was like a Brooklyn accent or something, right?
It's a
Uh,
transatlantic accent. It was like
yeah, yeah.
so
Oh,
it's like
yeah,
that,
yeah. So it's like that was awesome. I'm like, oh my God, that's great. And the scene that we have, in with that Casablanca scene, I've never met him. We were not together. It's the magic of editing. Because when I could be there, Jesse couldn't be there, and vice versa. So Jose had to film it a certain way so that he'd be able to put it, piece it together so that it seemed like we were together, but we never, not even for one take, nothing. We were never together.
oh yeah.
So,
I always am absolutely amazed when I hear about stuff like that. So somebody else who does that is Josh Irwin, who would put Vance Major next to the actress who came from Oklahoma. I can't remember her name
Wow.
was, and Jennifer Rader, and the two of them were never in the same place at the same time, and yet the lighting matched and the interactions were perfect. And it was just like they filmed those two scenes like 6 months apart, and it just
yeah.
boggles my mind that a good editor can do that. Before I hit David, I want to go and ask Jose a little bit more about the green screening and such. So, you had a staggering amount of footage, and not only did you have footage of the actors and such, but you had to go out and find all these backgrounds
Correct.
as well as footage of planes and such and so how long did that take? What was involved in getting all that footage together?
No, I'm glad you said that because it took me ages, and the reason it did you is that we evolved. By the time we finished it, we had evolved in all those graphics. I would say we went through 4 generations of graphics before we finally came up with the bomber graphics that we liked. And we even used AI. And the problem with AI is it doesn't give you what you want. It's like we end up using maybe a little bit of AI here, a little bit of AI there, another there, using real footage. And what we learned, I learned watching Masters of the Air came out while we were working on Bomber Girl. And then it blew my mind that they actually built replicas of the bombers. And then they used projector screen in the back. I said, oh my God, I can do the same thing with green screen and just have a piece of the bomber. And then I could do the same thing that Masters of the Air was doing with their large mechanical beast, and they were turning it and stuff like that. I can turn it in my editing, but yeah, I would say that we kept improving the graphics and throwing away the old graphics. And then, like I said, about 4 generations of graphics till we got it where we felt this is good. The pilots are in the plane, they're being attacked, and you could get it to the point where you can have bullets coming through and everything. But yeah, it's what you call it. As you do it, you find a way to do it better and then better and better and better by saying, whoa, I'll say a lot of it came from the internet. And then we had to, but a lot of the material from the internet is no good because it doesn't have the high quality that you need. So then we had to invest in a program that can turn a lousy graphic into something better. And then, oh my God, as you're surfing through the internet, that's something better. So throw away that old bomber. Here's bomber number 2. So by the time we got to the end, we were happy with the bombers that we had then. But yeah, you would have laughed at our original bombers to where we ended up where we got it kind of like the way we wanted it. Yeah, I'll say it was an evolution and experimentation to finally, reaching success where we got something that looks plausible and it looks nice.
Well, I'll tell you, speaking of AI, my friend Mojo has been playing with it a lot, and he had asked the AI to do this image of R2D2 coming out of a cave and then rolling away.
Wow.
And it started out looking fantastic. It looked like it was like perfectly R2D2. And then when it panned around and showed him rolling off, he just had like these rolling wheels underneath them that were about the size of like large tire donuts. It was crazy. Like I say, it's AI. Yeah, we're very much worried about AI taking over the world, but at this point, it would be nice if AI could at least get stuff right. Um, um, but it's getting there. It's still AI. We weren't even using the word AI 2 years ago, to talk
Ooh,
about stuff. So it's coming around quickly and in
yep.
some cases terrifyingly. But
Yeah.
but anyway, but you did a wonderful job, and in some cases you were probably compositing, I don't know, maybe 10 or 12 layers on top of each
Oh,
other.
times 24 to 36.
Okay,
And
even more than that.
and then move, and then what we found out is that's to be a movie of a movie of a movie because your computer keeps crashing a lot. It can only take so many layers before it says, what the hell? And it crashes. So, okay, now we have to make composite movies of composite movies and composite movies. And then you sandwich them together. So we found out works out best. That way it doesn't crash your computer. You can't have like 150 layers. Your computer wouldn't put up with it. But yeah, it turns into what you call an art form of experimentation. Yeah.
And it looks like Jesse is actually riding in an actual airplane there on the bottom of the screen.
Oh, yeah.
Keep playing with it.
I-
Yeah.
yeah, I've been watching you. You're either in an airplane or on top of a horse in a rodeo. Uh, anyway, let's finally talk to David, who's been waiting there so patiently in his Captain America shirt with his Deadpool logo there. Um, so David is a composer. He makes pretty music. In fact, I will be using him in something that will be coming out probably before this interview airs because I have to finish editing this film in the next week or two. Um, but I'm actually working on a robotics sponsor thank you video for my son's robotics team. So David generously offered to score it. So thank you very much for that. And apparently, David is also wanting people to know that he is available to score your fan film. So feel free to reach out to him. David, how do you prefer people to reach out to you to contact you?
Facebook is fine, but you can also use my email address at David_McHenry at Comcast.net.
Okay.
The way it works for me, like I said, I joined the Fan Film Forum on Facebook, which is a lot of F's in one sentence, but we
I
make
like
do.
the letter F. It's nice.
It was a lit with alliteration, you could say. Anyway,
Yes.
but yeah, that's if people can reach out to me. Right now, I'm actually doing another Star Trek fan film from Power 543 Studios. I'm also
Otherwise known as Samuel Cockings and the Trek
yes,
shorts. So for those people who aren't aware of the power
yes,
part of the logo.
that's been fun. Different kind of experience. I've also doing a Star Wars fan film. And so just to show that I'm not political, and I'm, I'm also doing some independent horror films, not in the fan film community but actual films, and I've already scored one that's just a horror short, and then there's another one coming up that I'm gonna score. They're short films, but yeah, film festival kind of stuff. So yeah, I'm having a lot of fun. And Bomber Girl was sort of my first real foray. Well, I had scored something once before, and I had done some trailer stuff, but Bomber Girl was really me cutting my teeth on it and finding out whether or not I could really do it. And I
Well,
guess,
considering there's a 2 hour long film, I'm guessing there was a lot of teeth cutting. You must have had like more teeth than the shark on this one.
well, my experience was very similar to what Leslie and Larry were talking about, and Jesse. I didn't do the whole film. I did. I don't know how much percentage wise I did, but there was a lot of music that was kind of already pre-placed. And then, but the very first scene I scored was was on the actual bomber with Janet helping a patient and the patient screaming, and then it shifted to the fantasy, the Enchantress world. So that was a really fun experience. He just sent me that scene. It was like a 5 minute scene or 3 minute scene or 4 minutes. Anyway, it was not that long, but it was where I established her theme song in the movie. And so whenever he reached out to me for another scene, so he would just send me scenes and go and give me a very eloquent and elaborate description of what he wanted, which I love. It was not only entertaining to read, but also very informative on what I should do. Again, more information is better. There's nothing worse than someone saying, "Give me music for this. I don't care what." And you do something, they go, "No, I don't like that. Do it again." You're like, "Okay, what did you not like?" So he was very descriptive. Was nailed it. Made it very easy for me. But I got to establish that musical theme that was sort of a 3/4 kind of waltz type thing for Leslie, and then contrast it to the World War II. I also am a fan of the First Avenger, so that movie was a big inspiration for a lot of the music. And then my favorite scenes to score, I have to admit, were the Star Trek scenes, only because I did not do any of the actual Star Trek music. I wrote my own, but I tried to make it sound like it was in the '60s show.
And it did sound that way, by the way. I mean, I was listening to it. It's like, yeah, that sounds kind of Star Trek-ish, but I don't recognize it exactly. And
that was totally by choice. I had watched. I mean, I've grown up on as we all have, and I think I could recite many of the episodes and also the music in them. So I kind of knew what to use, So it became a exercise in, okay, well, let's see. I'll use a cello here, and then I'll bring in they would bring in a harp here, and then they would bring in a flute here, and I would just think about it in a more broken down technical way, and then I'll just play my own notes, but I would do intervals that sounded similar to what they did, so I never played the da da da, but I would do one that was like da da da, or something like that, right? I would do it in a way that you knew immediately what I was trying to do, but it wasn't the right thing, right? It was different notes, and that was so it was this one was a really interesting challenge. Most movies I'm given kind of as a single, here's the movie, now score it. And in this one, I was given, here's a scene, now score it. Now here's another scene, now score it. Now here's another scene. And so it's a different way of working. That was a challenge, but it was also, it made it it made it even more interesting because you could kind of jump around and you could focus on that scene. Whereas when you got the whole thing, you're having to think it through the whole from start to finish. They're just two totally different ways of working,
Okay, well, let me ask what, because when I hear music in fan films, I'm always amazed at how talented you folks are, because I can barely carry a tune, let alone write music and put notes on paper, and when I play the guitar, it people will pay me to stop, and so. What is your training? How old were you when you first caught the music bug? And then what did you do after that as you developed? Did you go to school for film? Just give me a short life history if you can.
Sure. I'll try to keep it brief, though that is a challenge for me. So I was on the school bus in 8th grade when I sang a song to a friend. He goes, you sound like you could be a good singer. And so then next thing you know, it being kids, we formed a band. Of course, as kids are, the band was like 15 people long, but then by the time we had our first practice, there were 3 of us. And then they got a drum set, and I got hooked on drums, because drums are my first and probably my strongest instrument next to singing. And then I was hooked. I started practicing drums, playing drums all the time. Ended up joining a high school band, got into it. So then I went to what's now Belmont University here in Nashville. I went to Belmont College at the time, and with a degree, or with a major, I should say, in music. I was very much a fan of prog rock and the synth rock and all that at the time. The Rush, Mr. Genesis, yes, that sort of thing. And then going into the 90s, I actually was a touring musician. I actually I was a children's entertainer, Australian cat named Cat McCool. And it was sort of like Sesame Street meets the Beatles. And I toured with that. I actually played the White House. I got to play at Knott's Berry Farm with Cheech Marin introducing us on stage. I made him laugh. That was a highlight of my day, making Cheech laugh. And we wore costumes and then played music. So it was real musicians, but we were doing kind of a kid show thing with. So it was, but it was more rock. It wasn't the sing-songy Barney kind of stuff. It was rock. And then at the time, my roommate had been a famous pop star, and he could hardly pay my rent. And my life, he was having a hard time paying rent, and he has songs you've all heard and hits, and so I was like, that's a guy who made it, and he can hardly pay rent. And I'd met my wife and stepdaughter, and was like, I have a family now, so I kind of veered off into information technology, went through that. And then about 10 years ago, my youngest daughter, more like 15 years ago, she's an extremely talented musician, singer, songwriter herself. She, I don't know, I just got sucked back in, started writing. I've recorded 4 albums, prog rock, kind of like Supertramp meets the Beatles, meets Styx, Kansas, that sort of thing. We're, streaming on all the platforms. We even did a concert in 2020 that you can watch on Tubi or Prime Video, which is fun. And then I just thought, but the one thing I've always wanted to do was score movies, because I'm a movie junkie and dying to score movies. So, gosh, I don't know, when I reached out, I went to Fan Film Forum, it hit me. I went and took a tour of the Star Trek Continues sets down. I guess they were in Georgia, right?
Yeah. Kingston, Georgia. Now they're in Sandusky, Ohio.
Right. This was their last tour, or their last, accepting of tours before they moved. And I was there and I went, oh my God, why don't I offer here? Because I was trying to figure out who can I do, because nobody wants to pay a soundtrack guy when they don't know him. They're just not willing to. But fan films, they don't have a budget. So they're just happy to have someone help,
The price is right.
Right. The price is right. So, and really I was more into, because I have a career in cybersecurity, I'm fine money wise. So it was like, I just want to do this for fun. And Joe reached out to me, and then we started working on Bomber Girl. So, and I had a great time doing it. I've really enjoyed it. And I've got kind of the bug. So I'm a pretty fast worker. They'll send me a scene and I can usually send it back same day, depending on what I'm doing that day. I mean, obviously if I'm working or something, but I usually
I think the proper phrase is, do you want fries with that?
Exactly. Yeah. Well, that's how you call a musician in Nashville. That is the true Nashville way. So it's just a fun little side thing I do. And it's a passion of mine. So, and I love making, and I love orchestral arrangements, and even the rock music I do in my band has a lot of orchestral arrangements in it, things like that. So it was a dream come true. Also something I didn't know if I could do it or not. And it was easier than I thought it would be, or I guess I was more intuitive to me than I thought it would be. So.
Well, I'm very much looking forward to seeing what you come up with for my son's robotics video. So I just have to finish editing it first. Actually, I have to start editing it, and then I have to finish editing it. But all the footage is there. But in the meantime, let's finish up here as we talk about Nature's Hunger. So Bomber Girl is done, and I believe your next project is if people want to take a look, they can just look at your chest emblem, because I believe that there is there is something similar, or shall I say simian, to come. You see what I did there? You'll go ape for this next one. You want to tell us what your next project?
Yes, our next big project is Captain Simeon's First Command, and in a nutshell, it is about the first ape commander of a starship and his great adventure when he runs straight into the Romulans, and how does he deal with it? What are the challenges? And he leads.
He just flings dung at the Romulans.
And he leads a ship of humans and you can think of the conflict that'll be there, and he has to face the Romulans, you know. So it's just, and dare I say it, we have reached out to our fellow filmmakers, and we've talked to Frank Parker. I got his hat. We are going to be filming the bridge scenes at Frank Parker's wonderful sets.
Oh yeah, the sets that were built in his mother-in-law's garage.
Correct. We're going to be filming there this coming April, and we're very excited about it. So
nicest mother-in-law ever, by the way, lets you build a Star Trek bridge in her garage, so she can't even park her car in there. Use it for storage.
That's beautiful. So it's made in heaven, just like a marriage film made in heaven, you know, in ape heaven, you know. So we're basically using his bridge sets, where a majority of the scenes will be shot there, you know. And we have Clay Sayer, all right, from the Mind Sifter, that played Core and won.
Oh, he was very good, Core, yes.
Yes, yeah, and won an acting award. I was there for that. And he says, Joe, man, I got to be part of that picture. So he is, and he is going to be making the ape masks for the key players. And I am just amazed.
Making the ape mask. You're not just going to buy an ape mask. You're going to make an ape.
Oh, no, because the ape masks, I mean, we can't just use a regular mask. These are the masks that actually talk and the lips move and stuff like that. So I've just been awed when he's been to my house twice, and just watching him create a ape mask so whoa, I mean, this is magic in itself. So yeah, he will be creating the ape mask, and we're exciting. And Clay will be playing Captain Simeon himself.
And get your hands off me, you damn dirty. Oh, Captain, I'm sorry. I didn't realize it was you.
Great discussions on what is this character of Captain Simeon. So I said, and then he told me, what do you think? Is this what? And then he said, yes. All I can say is the fans will love it. You know, when he told me what he has in mind for this character, this Captain Simeon character. Oh, and dare I say it, LEZLIE SAWYER. Remember, we're talking about a ape crew and a human crew. LEZLIE SAWYER will play his number one to keep that ape in line, okay?
There's going to be some high drama, very heavy drama that happens between the two of them.
That's true. So I even kept rewriting the script, saying, you know, there has to be more tension. There has to be more drama. There has to be more meat in this, you know, human versus ape, but they have to work together, you know, to overcome the challenges, you know. So this will be good.
The scene that I'm waiting for is Captain Simeon and his first officer, and as they're having their conversation, their interaction, or wherever, he goes, "Oh, wait, hold on for a second," and he grabs onto her head and goes, "Oh, you got something in your hair."
Oh
yeah.
Go ahead, make my day. Make that scene.
Oh God.
Oh yeah, but we did a warm-up film. Before we got into Captain Simeon, and that's Bill Bailey and the LBZ Productions. They came over here, and we did Going Bananas with them, kind of like a warm-up film, you know, kind of get our fine tune our film skills together, you know, a short 5-minute film that's been out, Going Bananas.
You've been doing a lot of collaborations lately. I mean, you had Vance Major and even Royce, his son,
yes,
in Bomber Girl.
Like nine cameos if you count them. I think I sent you a slide on that. All these people, and they all said yes. I said, whoa. I would say Bomber Girl has been like the Field of Dreams. If you film it, they will come. You know, they came everywhere. You know, yes, we want to be part of it. I said, fantastic. You know,
I think that's so wonderful. You know, and this didn't used to happen. You know, back in the days when Mind Sifter was made, which, by the way, you know, that was, you know, one of the last Star Trek New Voyages / Phase 2 episodes to come out. You know, and that wasn't all that long ago, but you know, we're now talking about, you know, 10 years and more. You know, fan films were pretty much their own, you know, fiefdoms, and now there's just it's wonderful that you guys are all helping each other and you're appearing in each other's fan films, and you need extra costumes, you need extra
Right.
props, that here you go. And um I think it's just I think it's fantastic. It's this wonderful community of Star Trek fan films and filmmakers that are just like, hey, let's get along.
Yeah, there you
um
Mhm.
yeah.
but it's great. So anyway, I want to congratulate all of you. This really was, as I said at the beginning, this was in its own way a masterpiece. Uh, it was cheap. It was very, basic level, compositing and such. But at the same point in time, that basic level compositing was so complex that if you watch it on that level of just, looking at how much was done with just so little by so few people, uh, it's kind of mind-boggling. So, seriously, Colonel, good job.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah. Like you said, so much with so little, and
Exactly, and Leslie and Larry and Jesse and David, just, really my hat is off to you. Of course, my hat isn't
thank you.
actually even on, so
Thank
I
you.
will put my hat on,
There you go. There
and
you go.
now my hat is off to you. Uh, anyway, I want to thank you guys for your time tonight, and I guess I will see you whenever Captain Simeon makes his debut appearance.
That's
Yes, I like to say we're filming in April,
That's
and
right.
it's April.
April.
I love it. Okay, I can't beat that. I'm not even going to try to follow it.
So
I
end
will
on that note.
we'll end on that note. So
Yes.
everybody, live yourself a long life and prosper. And thank you all for watching another interview on Fan Film Factor. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for being a great
Thank
coach.
you. Thank you.